All right, are you recording? Cool. Welcome to the very first episode of Beyond the Lineup. I'm Xavier Math, and alongside me is my co-host, Lily Colbert. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a special guest. I had the honor of meeting him this year on a surf trip to the Mentawai Islands in Indonesia, and when it comes to life, he doesn't miss a day. He's a trailblazer in DJing, has had great success in the venture capital world. He is the CEO of XLR8R, and has made a significant impact on the surf community in Los Angeles. Please welcome my good friend, John Wander.
Hello.
John, thank you for joining us today. Seriously, it is an honor to have you on the show. How are you doing, and what's been keeping you busy lately?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. What's been keeping me busy lately? A lot of work. You mentioned venture capital. I'm a venture partner at a venture fund, and we just finished raising our third fund, first fund for me. So I've been working doing that, driving my son up and down the coast to surf, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about from one comp to the next. And then I'm one of the co-founders of Northern LA Board Riders in LA. And we have our interclub contest coming in October and November. So Dylan Perillo and I are kind of putting that whole production together, which is, it's pretty cool. But it's a lot of work. Yeah, it's the labor of love, but it's fun.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
So you are from LA?
Yeah, correct? I'll tell you a little bit of my background. I am born and raised in LA. It's funny because everyone thinks I grew up in Malibu. I wasn't as privileged as Mateo was to grow up in Malibu. I was born in Thousand Oaks. I don't know if you guys know where that is. Yeah. Age 5, my parents divorced. So I ended up in the Valley in Northridge, which is not, 40 minutes from the coast, right? And my older cousins got me into surfing. So I started surfing when I was 11. And back then you could ride in the back of pickup trucks. It was legal back then, reflecting my age here. But I literally would just have to find rides to the beach every day. And I started surfing at 11. And, I forgot. I was into dirt biking then. I was into playing football and skateboarding. And once I started surfing, all that just stopped. It was only surfing. And I got really hooked on it. And competed in my first NSSA contest at Topanga, and Tom Kern was in it.
No way. I didn't know they had a comp at Topanga. That's crazy.
NSSA.
They have to bring that back.
And Tom Kern was in it, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. I was so nervous. I think I lost like first round or something. But I competed. They had a WSA back then, and they had districts. So we were District 4, something like Hunger Games on districts. It kind of was, it still is Hunger Games, right, with a no priority. But, it was cool because it was District 4. This guy, David Lansdowne, ran it. And we had comps at Malibu all the time, County Line, Topanga. And we're trying to get a permit for Topanga. It's really hard. We haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I've never seen a comp in my life.
They won't let it happen. And so we're working on it. I think we're going to get something passed, but it's been really tough. So, I got into surfing, and as soon as I turned 18, got out of high school, I wanted to get out of the Valley and get close to the beach because I was competing. I surfed a couple pro-ams before I decided, I better go to college. There wasn't like you had to be like top 10. There wasn't like a QS North America or anything like that. There was a PSAA, which is a California tour. I think I did one or two of those. I didn't do that well. And then I did a Pro-Am in Cayucas, probably your neck of the woods. And then I said, well, I'm going to go back to school. And that's when I picked up a surfboard again and said, man, I want to surf. A lot colder water. But I didn't surf much when I was on the East Coast, except when I was back in LA. But that got me into that sort of, that field, venture capital, technology. So I've been doing that for 20 years where I probably raised, $130, $140 million for different startups, technology startups, did my own fund. And I was surfing. And then along the way, it was kind of like New York. I was doing a lot of New York trips when I lived in Boston and San Francisco. And then I think I did a trip to where I was a couple trips to Europe, and I discovered electronic music. And so I was really falling in love with house music, and I started to go out to events all the time, and I was like really into it to where I started DJing just as like a bedroom hobby.
And how old would you say you were when you first like really got into electronic music or really got into the space?
The first time I heard it and fell in love with it was probably 1991, and I was in Greece. It was my first Europe trip. It wasn't really in the States yet. It was if you were like in the underground, you knew, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
Who were some of the famous DJs at that time?
Oh gosh, in LA, this DJ Kioki was really big. Frankie Knuckles kind of started house, and then there was some like big German like techno DJs like Westbam, and then there was a English DJ Carl Cox who still plays all over. He's still pretty big. Michael Cook, who was kind of one of my friends, and like he moved from London to LA and kind of started that electronic music scene. So I'd met some of these DJs, and they took me under their wing and said, "Why don't you start spinning?" I'm like, "I'm too old. Well, how am I going to do this?" And my friend, it was DJ Brownie, he's like, we were at his house. He goes, how old are you? I go, I'm like 27. He goes, how old do you think I am? I go, I don't know, like 23. He goes, I'm 32. So the next day we went and got turntables. I played vinyl. I learned on vinyl. There was no like CDJs or USB sticks or any of that. It was vinyl. So I play vinyl quite well. I can play all the digital now, but I play vinyl quite well. So that was kind of like, I was doing venture capital during the week and then going out to DJ on weekends, and then if I didn't have a gig, I'd surf the next morning, because if I had a gig, I was usually up too late, and I'd surf like the next afternoon when it was blown out. But that's kind of, I was doing all that in San Francisco and going down to LA, and it took me back to the West Coast, and then it was kind of a random thing for me, because I made a lot of money. I made not a lot of money, but I was making a lot more money in venture capital than I would DJ. But the DJ things, I was just playing in San Francisco and LA, and it was so cool, right? I go, I got booked in LA, and I'll go back home and see my friends. I'd go back to San Francisco, and then I got my very first DJ gig in Berlin. So, and it was just like, this is like 2001 or 2000. And I was so excited, but I really wanted to play in Spain. I wanted to play in Ibiza, because we were going to go on vacation in Ibiza after that. And so this is back before like SoundCloud and, it wasn't even Facebook. I don't even think MySpace was around. It was like Friendster. You guys probably don't, you're so young, you remember that. But it was before all that. So you had to like put your mix CD. I was like cassette tape CD. You put a mix CD as a promo CD, and you would FedEx it to like different promoters and agencies. And so my friend I got a hold of an agency, kind of a promoter in Spain. I said, oh, what the hell? I just sent him a FedEx. Never heard back, right? So I went to Berlin, played that gig, which is really fun. And then we all went to Ibiza. I don't know if you guys have been to Ibiza at all, but it's kind of like a mecca of electronic music. So all the world-class DJs will play there during the week and every weekend during the summer. And it's a lot of fun. Like if you like electronic music, there's daytime, nighttime, whatever. It's really fun. And so did that, had a blast, came home, and then in November my phone rings, and this guy kind of he sounded English, but he's like, hey, I could barely understand him. He's like a really rough accent. And it was a guy from that agency that I sent a CD from. It's like in November. I sent it like July, right? And he really liked it. He goes, I really love this CD. We're listening to this bar right now. He called me from this bar, and I'm in Mallorca. I'm like, oh, no way. He goes, I'd love for you to come out and play for us. We love this. He goes, we can only pay like $250. You got to buy your own flight, but we'll get you a showcase gig. And a showcase gig was, I had to play. It was kind of weird. I had to play in a club for just promoters and not like a dance floor. Some people, like really small crowd. And it was during Sonar, which is the big music festival in Barcelona. And I'm like, of course I'll come, I would have. And so I ended up going there. They loved it. I played. And then No, that was right before Sonar. So they loved it. And then like 3 months later, I'm in 2 Spanish DJ magazines and I'm playing all these gigs in Spain. And I have an agency now. So then I started playing in like Europe like 3-4 times a year, particularly Spain and Berlin and London. So I was doing that on the weekend while I was doing venture capital. But I've always been kind of like interested in music and love music, but I was never trained to play a music instrument. So when I was a kid, so I think that was like my way to really connect with music. Because I was a guy, when we go on a surf trip, I'd have like a program list for like the trip, right? I would always be really like, oh, I have my program list. We're listening to this on the way there. We're listening to this on the way back. And I've got all these tracks. And I was doing that since I was like probably 12 or 13, right? We used to make cassette tapes that we'd record off vinyl. And so that was, it was just a random thing. And then I started to get to know everybody in that industry. So that kind of was like skating. I was like kind of like in the electronic music space in the weekends, still surfing a lot. Surfing's always been a passion. So I'd always still like surf 3 times a week the whole way through. And living in San Francisco, I kind of miss it because I surfed so many good waves. Well, you lived up in San Luis Obispo.
Yeah.
So I surfed a lot of good waves and it wasn't crowded, like OB with just a few guys out. Now it's pretty crowded now, I heard.
It gets a little crowded now.
Yeah.
But nothing like down here in Southern California.
Yeah. And so it was so it was a great experience. So I was surfing and then DJing and then doing venture capital. But I started to kind of, I had always in my mind, like, wanted to go back and get my master's degree. And so I didn't really need to for work, but it was something I wanted to do.
What was it that you studied in school?
I studied business in undergrad.
Business.
Yeah, business in undergrad. And then and I worked for like 8 years before I went back and got my master's. So I was in San Francisco and I was looking at different schools and I was looking at UCLA, Lily, and I was looking at USC. I know, shame on me.
Yeah, fight off.
And then and then I was looking at Pepperdine. And Pepperdine, I had to work full time. I couldn't just bail and go to school full time. I probably could have, but I didn't want to. And because work was pretty even not slower times after the bubble had burst, we were still doing some pretty cool deals after that. And so I didn't want to just stop working. So Pepperdine had a program that I really liked, and it was pretty flexible. So I went back in 2004, got my MBA for 2 years, and went to Pepperdine, moved back to LA. And I said, okay, well, that's it. I'm going to quit DJing. I'm going to business school, and I'm just going to work. And that's kind of what I did for the next 2 years. And it's kind of a little funny story because I was like, it was like the last day of business school where like we were all the class was there and our professors were there, and you have to like rate your professors, right? So we had to do like this survey.
On paper.
Oh, wow. And so this is 2006. And so, and then I was still living in San Francisco. Oh, because I moved back to San Francisco right before I graduated because my thesis was doing this microcap fund, venture fund. So my thesis was what I took to San Francisco after it actually did. So it was really cool because I took what I wrote in my thesis and made it a reality in San Francisco because that's where the heart of technology was. I felt I had to be there. So I went back to San Francisco again. But it was so funny because the professors aren't allowed to carry those, not that they're going to change them, but somebody has to carry them to the office. So I had this, like, my finance professor is like kind of like a salty sea captain, and he was Holly McPeak's dad. You guys remember Holly McPeak, Olympic gold medalist for volleyball, in like the 2000 Olympics or something. It's Pepperdine, it's a very conservative school. And he was like really rigid. Like one of our guys we had teams in business school, and one of the guys that was on my team, he was trying to he had not studied and not prepared. And he tried to get up and try to wing it. And he was late and he was missing, and literally got kicked out, just kicked him out, like Chuck McPeak, that was his name, my professor, kicked him out. So he was like pretty strict, right?
Yeah, hardcore.
You were like my quant professor I ended up co-investing with, Tom Dudley, like he was my buddy. Like we started doing angel investing together after Pepperdine. But Chuck was like really rigid, right? I'm thinking wow, man, you don't want to cross this guy after he kicked my other friend Rod out, my business partner or my school partner. So we're walking. He goes, John, you want to carry these to the office with me? We're walking. And we're walking along, and he goes, so Wander. I'm like, yeah. He goes, I heard you're a techno DJ. I go, what? You heard that? Where'd you hear that from? He goes, come on, I know everything. He goes, you're having a party, right? For graduation party. He goes, I hope the hell you're going to spin for us. You better spin. I'm like, are you serious? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, it's got to be. I kind of really kept it low key. I quit. I don't DJ anymore, and I'm like Mr. Business School guy. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. And so it was funny because I had rented this house in Malibu for the graduation party, and I set up my whole setup, and I played, and all my aunts, my whole family, and all my business school partners are there. And Chuck rolls up with like probably the prettiest girl at the party. So we totally got him wrong. And he's danced the whole time. My aunts were going, this is your professor? I'm like, yeah, I thought he was conservative. I guess I was wrong. But he was like partying the whole night, had the best time. But turns out he loved house music, which is what I play. I really don't play much techno, but deep house is kind of my genre. But it was so funny because I thought, okay. So I kind of like DJing again. That felt really fun. I did not do it in 2 years. And then moved back to San Francisco, and then I was pretty much just working in venture capital. And then a couple of my music friends, hey, why don't you come out and play with us again? And then I was like, okay. And then it's not something it's like surfing. You never get tired of it. Yeah. I've aged myself out of it at this point, but back then I started DJing again, and we started throwing events in San Francisco on the weekends. And we had a lot of the tech community who's really in the house and electronic music coming to events in San Francisco. So it's always been a kind of a big part of it.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then I was just wondering, like, when you perform, is there a specific emotion or experience that you're trying to create for the audience? Like, when you're the one controlling the music, like, what's your intention and how do you go about that?
Yeah, so I never, I'm not one of those DJs that ever program my set, because that could be a disaster. Because so there's really great music producers that are great producing music in the studio, and there's really great DJs. Two totally different talents. A really good DJ listens to the dance floor, feels the vibe, listen, what's gonna wake this floor up? What's gonna even get people on the floor to dance, right? So for me, I literally would get to my gigs early, and I would go out on the dance floor first and be right in the middle of it and try to feel the energy and everything that's going on out there, and thinking, what would I want to hear? What would I play? What would I want to hear now with this, all these people and this vibe? Because I've seen DJs program sets, and they go out, and it sounds great when you're programming it, but then you go out and the vibe and everything's totally different. If you play something at the wrong time, you'll clear the dance floor. So really listening is the most important part. And I play really eclectic, so I can play a long time too. I could play 6 hours and not even blink. It's addicting.
That's incredible. What would you say? I mean, this is a pretty big question. It doesn't have to be one specific answer, but what was your most memorable performance?
There's probably a couple, but I think Stereo Montreal, which is, it's, I don't know if you guys been to Montreal.
No, I've
It
not.
is, it's kind of like a little slice of France, as you know, in America. Well, it's in Canada, but it's got a great music scene in the summertime, especially, right? Everybody had this really cold winter, so everybody's out every weekend, every day in summer in Montreal. And so there's an incredible nightclub there called Stereo, which is still open today. It's been open for 20 years plus, 25 years. But it has one of the best sound systems in the world in it. And I got a gig. I got to play there. And I played there a few times, actually. They invited me back after. But playing there was probably the biggest thing for me, the moment. I played in a lot of bigger events in L.A., and in San Francisco and Miami. Did a lot of stuff in Miami too. We used to throw a big event there at the music conference every March. But that was probably the best one. But it was funny too because they're like, you're going to play the opening set. So I'm thinking, okay, so I'm going to open. So I'm going to probably play like 10 to 12. I go, what am I opening? He goes, oh, that's 2 to 6.
Wow, that's
Oh, I go, I'm playing the main room. The main room opens after the bar closes. So the bar goes from 10 to 2. Then the club opens from 2 in the morning till like 12 the next day. So I played the opening set for 4 hours from 2 to 6 a.m.
Wow.
I played all vinyl then, and it was like, couple thousand people packed. It was fun. And I was nervous though. Like I was always, I was really like with surfing or like anything I do, it was like my craft too. So I took it really seriously. I always played sober and I was prepare. Like I didn't program my sets, but I took like, I'd have my records or now even digital. Here's what I think I'm going to play. And I would practice for hours at home, just mixing. Now you can press buttons and it'll mix for you. But back then you had to really know your skills and know how to mix, and especially vinyl, right? Because vinyl is really hard. And he said, hey, I've got something for you. Have you ever heard of Accelerator? And I'm thinking, which one, right? There's all these accelerators that create these startups, right? He goes, no, the magazine. I go, you mean the techno and house magazine? He goes, yeah. I'm like, of course. I used to subscribe to that when I first got into electronic music in 1998. And I'd put it on my coffee table just to be cool, like when girls would come over. And of course, I love that magazine. I go, how are you involved? He goes, well, I'm really good friends with childhood friends with the founder, and I'm on the board, and we need some help. And we thought you'd be a good guy to call because I know you straddle this world. So turns out they were bought by Spin Magazine. I don't know if you know Spin Magazine, the rock and roll magazine. Spin Media owns BuzzFeed. Have you heard of BuzzFeed?
Yeah, of course.
So they own BuzzFeed. They own Vibe, 12 different magazine properties, and it's like a media holding company called Spin Media. And Spin bought Accelerator, did nothing with it. It was on this old like Drupal 5 site where you had to like go like this to like look at the mobile. It wasn't mobile friendly. It was terrible. They just slapped ads on it and just tried to monetize it with their other properties. And he goes, yeah, well, so Spin bought us, Accelerator, and they paid the founders half up front, and they were paying out the founders over like 5 years, and they just filed for Chapter 11, so they're not going to pay the founders. I'm like, oh, it's not good. They still owed them like quite a bit of money. So I ended up getting involved, and we negotiated to take Accelerator back from Spin, let them off the hook for their money, and we put it into a new entity, transferred all the assets. And then my friends are like, whoa. And then I met the founders, like, why don't you come run this? I'm like, I can't. I go, I got a startup. I raised $2 million from investors, put a lot of money of my own money into the startup. I'm not going to bail.
And I had a question about your startup. How did that idea come about, and how did that even come about in the first place? And what was the transition like to go to the entrepreneurial side of things?
To go from the money side to the entrepreneur?
Yeah.
It was a eye-opening learning experience. In fact, I think I'm a better investor now because I was an entrepreneur. No offense to my friends. I don't know if any VCs are going to hear this, but but it's so easy to be on the sidelines telling people, you should do this, Xavier. You should do this, Lily. What's your product market fit, Lily? What have you thought about this? It's so easy to do that after you've invested in being an advisor. But when you're an entrepreneur and you're going, oh my God, we're starting to run out of money. How am I going to make payroll? Oh my gosh, how much traction am I getting on this idea and product we launched? It was a complete different animal of stress to manage. But it was also a learning. I learned what it's like to actually start a business, and it's really hard. It's like startups are really hard. And I didn't know that as like a banker, right? I was like, I thought I did. I'm a smart guy. I knew everything. A lot of VCs, we were really smart. We know a lot of stuff because we look at a lot of companies and we're involved, or we get on the board of a lot of companies, but you're still not taking the full risk there. When your whole life is into something and you put it all into that, that's when you get to feel the real of what it's like to be like, oh my gosh, I'm risking it all. Because startups, you might fail. Chances are you're gonna fail. Sometimes people try 3 or 4 startups before they get the one right. You don't hear those stories. You hear about the big successes, but if you dig into those entrepreneurs, you realize they started 3 companies that failed before that. So it was a learning experience.
What initially got you into the VC world? It's like straight out of college.
I was raising money for real estate, which I hated real estate. It was boring. And I'm a little bit of a nerd. Like, I love technology and I love new ideas. I love entrepreneurship. I love trying to start something and see if it works. And I love, that was a passion, but I knew nothing about technology. I was like a business guy, but I'm not I probably know enough to be dangerous now because I've been around it for so long, but I don't write code or anything like that. I think I took a coding class for like a little bit, but I don't write code. I'm not a technologist. I'm a technology investor, if that makes sense. So I know a lot about it. So I think for me, it was just so exciting. Like, it's the future, right? It was like the internet came. It was the internet, and then now we're looking. Now it's crazy. Like, this fun. Like, so we went from the internet to like infrastructure, mobile, right? We've got video, the smartphone. Like, everything's changed so much. And now we're talking about AI, which no one really knows how that's all going to shake out. But it's exciting and scary at the same time. But this deep tech fund that I'm involved with now, like, I'm learning so much because they're invested in the co-founder of SpaceX. You know SpaceX?
Yes.
So the co-founder of SpaceX, Tom Mueller, he was going to do it at SpaceX, but I guess Elon wouldn't let him do it. So he goes, I'm going to go do this on my own. And Tamarack, the fund that I'm part of, is one of the investors, and this guy is called Impulse Space. And so I didn't even know there was you hear the space economy. I think I bought some space stocks like when we were all trading during the pandemic and all that, and that'd be fun. But it was, I didn't know much about it. I go, what is the real market in space? Like, who's paying for all this, right? Well, there's a big market there, and there's a lot of money to be made. So what he created, Impulse Space, is like moving stuff around for people in space. So like a FedEx of space, if you could think of it. Like, oh, you need to transfer your astronauts from this space station to that space station, we can do that. We pick them up as like these orbiting spacecraft. And there's people pay a lot of money for that. In fact, we had a Christmas party, not a Christmas party, but it was like a party for all our LPs. We did a Soho House. And I had some of my friends DJing. So I try to mix up everything I do into one. So we had a DJ and a lot of our LP investors were there. And he was there, the founder. And he's like Elon's right-hand man. This guy knows a lot. And he was telling us we were talking, it was just kind of after the holidays. We were talking about the holidays. And he's telling us a story about what their last job was. And he goes, yeah, I got a call from the government. It was a U.S. government saying, hey, there's a piece of Russian space junk that's going to hit one of our satellites and destroy our satellites. Can you move it for us? Move it out of the way. And he goes, yeah. So they use the Impulse Space spacecraft to basically catch up to the satellite, latched onto it, pulls it out of the way before the Russian space junk destroyed it. Got paid $40 million by the government to do that.
Incredible.
And we were like, well, how did you know to charge that? He goes, well, I figured I saved them $100 million, right, on their satellite. I figured probably worth 40, right? And so that kind of stuff is what Tamarack's investing in. So we have an AI robot, like a robot that will move boxes around warehouses. And Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, invested. Sam Altman, who created ChatGPT, he's an investor. Bill Gates invested. That's kind of scary. But it's a robot that will work 18 hours a day, can work in freezing conditions, is going to move warehouse boxes around Amazon.
That's going to be such a game changer. You know, I was just at a warehouse last weekend getting a whole tour of this massive warehouse of this big school supply company. And we saw like the whole breakdown, and the director of operations was like, yeah, like all these people working here, like AI is gonna be, or like technology is like gonna
Yeah.
be making a lot of this a lot more operational and a lot more efficient. It's crazy. I was wondering like how your interest in surfing and love for electronic music have helped open any doors or inspired anything in your VC or entrepreneurial career. Like how have those passions impacted, maybe your network, your deal flow?
Yeah. So first of all, I'll say surfing is the new golf. No joke.
I love to hear that.
It really is. It's the new golf. I'm not kidding because so let me go back one step back. So I used to do this daytime event with the co-founder, one of the guys from Thievery Corporation is a really good friend of mine. Like they'll sell out the Hollywood Bowl and some big stuff. And our kids are 2 weeks apart. So we're like, what are we going to do? We can't go out and stay up late anymore. We're like dads, right? So we decided to start this daytime event called You Are Art. The reason why it's called You Are Art is surrounded by art galleries in Bergamot Station in Santa Monica. So we started this like family-friendly event that started at 12 and ended at 6, mainly for the kids, and the adults would tend to hang out till like 10 o'clock. But then it was over. You go home, you're done. So we started this daytime event to sort of morph to our lifestyles, right? Because we weren't staying out late anymore. And Rob still does because he tours around the world a lot. But the idea that has always been in my mind of going, man, it would be so cool, right, to mesh the two together, surfing and electronic music. And I started telling my friend this, who surfs. He lives in Berlin. And he's a really well-known DJ, travels the world. And I was there with Matteo. We were there. It's Matteo's first trip to Berlin. I go, it'd be really cool if we could somehow put together a surf comp with a music festival. And he goes, oh, they're doing it. I go, what do you mean? He goes, yeah. So in Portugal, there's a group of promoters that are all hardcore surfers, really good surfers. And they do like this kind of a surf comp. I think it's more of a music festival with surfing. It's in Portugal, and it's on the beach. And so right before the pandemic, I was talking to them about, okay, I want to partner with you guys and do something. It would be cool to actually do like almost like a QS Europe there.
Oh my God, that would be
and
so
then you have a festival. It's cool. Like we were at the Quicksilver Pro in Cocoa Beach.
Or Cocoa Beach, yeah.
And they do like a big party after that, right?
Yeah,
like,
they
it starts
do.
to turn into a big thing, but nothing what I'm talking about, something like really great DJs, stages. And I met a lot of DJs who surfed along the way, like the guys, a lot of out of Berlin. They all just go to Portugal and go surfing on their breaks. A lot of them moved to Portugal for the quality of life and for tax purposes, but and the weather. But no, for me, like it was always a thing where I was like, you know what, this needs to come together because my music tastes are really wide range. My mom, I grew up I was a kid in the 70s, and she used to blast classic rock, and so I'm a big classic rock fan, right? And then I got really into 80s music. For me, the 80s was the most exciting time because I remember like we were all like wearing OP shirts and our hair were like a little longer in the 70s, and then the 80s hit, and I got like this, I cut my hair short, my hair was long, and I remember I was at Six Flags and I went to my first concert ever as a Missing Persons, and the 80s was like, what is this music? All this fashion changed, the surfboards changed, right? Echo Beach, Newport, like all the bright colors. And I remember being in line to go on one of the rides, and I'm like, I don't know, like 15, and I have my like long, 80s haircut, and my cousins are pissed off and like, oh, you sold out, you're going that route now? And I'm like, it's so cool. I love the music. It's new wave music, right? And rockabilly. And this girl turns around in line and goes, so are you like new wave or rockabilly? And I'm like, rockabilly? I don't know, but it was like, and then that night I went to the Missing Persons concert. They had a concert at like, it was an all-night party when you finish high school. And so it was like, I don't know where I'm going here, but like that, but at that period was like, I just loved the whole change and the revolution and the new music, and it was such a time where it changed surfing too. Like we went from like single fins to thrusters to twin fins to bright wetsuits and colors. It was fun. So music has always like been a part, and I like indie rock a lot, and I play like I DJ at my board riders. our board riders event, I set up my music and I curate that event because I can't help myself.
Well,
right?
don't you think that might be able to bring like some more of an audience? Like, say you combine
100%,
like a surf contest, and then like a DJ, like a high-end DJ that loves surfing, like Fisher.
Yeah,
who is best friends with all
good
the
surfer, by the way.
Yeah,
he rips. I didn't know he ripped that hard.
I was going, okay, is this guy like a kook or does he rip? But I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but he was like he would do this like little interviews.
The U.S. Open. Yeah, he would
follow
YouTube.
everybody around, and he was a funny guy, right?
Hilarious.
And then
big personality.
Do you know Luke Cheadle in our board riders? He's
I do.
So Luke. So Accelerator, I got asked to run Accelerator, so I'm the CEO, but Luke runs it day to day. I kind of phased out of it 2 years ago to focus full-time in venture. But Luke, I met Luke. He's an amazing DJ, music producer, but he was a QS surfer from Australia. And so Luke told me about Fisher. Because you remember Fisher, the guy? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, he's a DJ now. And so he showed me his SoundCloud. I go, no way. This is before he blew up. This is when he started starting out. And it's crazy how big he got. So I'm thinking, is this guy a kook or can he really surf, right? It's the first thing you think of as a surfer, right? Is he really a kook or not? And so he's not. He rips. I saw him like...
I saw him surfing Karamas and he was ripping
He was
hard.
ripping. I go, this guy, he rips. And I actually really enjoy his DJing. I like his music. It's like really funky, groovy house, which I like. And no, he's like, there's two that are really master right. There's Peggy Goo. I don't know if you know Peggy Goo.
Yeah, I love Peggy.
So we
She's
covered
great.
Peggy back when she was nobody on us, Accelerate. Not nobody, but starting out. I want to say that's a bad word to use, but she was just up and coming. And now she's the real deal too. A lot of women DJs hate on her. Oh, she's not, like the real techno DJs are Berlin and all of that. But if you break it down, like she produces some really good tracks. She did this track with Lenny Kravitz, which is really cool. She's done some innovative. She has a unique sound, but she backs it up. She's a really good DJ. She's produced a lot of great music, and she just got really big. Her and Fisher got to be the biggest things on the planet right now, as far as like DJs. I mean, I don't know if you saw, but Fisher closed down Hollywood Boulevard.
I did.
You see
a lot
that?
of my friends were there.
Oh, man.
It was crazy.
I would have gone. I'm too old now. It looked like. No, I'm not too old. I still go out from time to time, but it's once in a blue moon. But I love the music, and I love going dancing. And so I still like... It's funny because like Mateo would come to our art festivals and he'd meet his friends there because he was really kid friendly. I taught him, my son Mateo, so I taught him how to DJ a little bit. And he's like, some kids don't want to do everything your dad does, right? So he kind of like, yeah, it's cool, Dad, it's fun. I don't know if I really like this kind of music though. I go, okay, cool. But then now he's coming back and now he's curating all his playlists. Now he's really into music now. He's curating his playlist on Spotify. He's got his playlist before he goes out in the heat, his comps. And so he's starting to really love music, which is really cool. And but it's funny how what I told him, I said, why don't you get some music that you like and then try to DJ it? Because that's more fun because you like the music. It's going to be personal, right?
Yeah.
So you connect with it. But to the surf festival music thing, I haven't seen anybody do it yet, except the Portugal guys, and it hasn't been on a massive level. But you guys did a trip to Portugal, right? So
we did. That was quite.
We
amazing.
actually did go to a music festival surf thing in France.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
So
huge.
of course Europe's a little more advanced than we are
Definitely.
on electronic music, and they have less rules there. Like it's really hard. You couldn't just set up shop in Malibu and throw an electronic music event. They would they'd put you in jail.
I don't know how Fisher pulled off closing off a whole street. That was the
I
craziest
don't
thing I'd
know
ever
how-
seen in LA.
That was
ever.
insane. I think Talia jumped the fence or something and snuck in. I
she
heard.
was
Sorry,
tell-
Talia.
she was telling me about that.
Sorry about that. We're on a podcast here, but no, it's there's a lot of surfer DJs that you don't know about, and a lot of DJs that surf, right? And I've found them because we've all common threads, but we've always talked about it'd be fun to do how fun would it be to go DJ and surf in the same day, because that's what I love to do.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think they kind of had that really. You remember when they had the Challenger series they opened it up, and Fisher played a gig right after one of the days.
Oh, I remember, and all the people in the Challenger Series were there.
They were all
but
there.
They just need to connect the two. If we had a Challenger Series straight to like a concert on the beach or by the beach where it was
needs to be
connected,
done.
that would bring so many people to surfing
Like a
too.
lot of
I think
fans.
that would be.
And they kind of had that. Think about it. They kind of did that at the U.S. Open, but it's not the kind of music we're talking about. Like the proper like house music that you'd really dance to. It's like
Sublime,
they'd have
right?
Sublime, which I love Sublime.
Yeah.
So I love all this music. When I DJ, I like to play. I'll play a lot of ambient, but I'll play eclectic at our board riders. Like I'll play Led Zeppelin. I have all because you don't want to just hear house music at a surf event. So I like play ambient in the morning and work on the way up. But it's it hasn't been done properly like that. Like U.S. Open, they had the music, but it's always been like somewhere. And this is like when I met you guys and we were in the Menowise and you start playing this music, oh, you like electronic music? Like, we love electronic music. And I'm like, thank God. Because like when my generation, I was like out of play. Like this guy, what do you like house? Like all my surfer friends are like, what is that? Is it like, you're going downtown? You're going where? You know? And now it's really become, and if you look at some of the surf videos are hosting a lot of, are using a lot of curating a lot of electronic music in the surf. So it's coming more into the surf scene, but it does kind of bum me out from time to time that it's the same old music, the same old bands, the same old stuff at the next surf contest or surf comp.
Right.
And Europe doesn't surprise me, right? Was it Hassengor or something?
Yeah, it was
Of
Biarritz.
course.
It was
right?
Biarritz.
So you probably saw Laurent. So Laurent Garnier, who's one of my favorite DJs of all time, I ended up meeting him and got to know him a little bit later on. But he was my biggest inspiration in DJing. Laurent Garnier, because he could play anything, ambient, techno, house. And I went to his events when he played at Coachella, and I went to he does an all-night thing at Rex in Paris, and I was in Paris. I was with my mom and my sister, and I'm like, I'll be back tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning? I'm like, yeah, he plays all night, Mom. I'll be home at like 4 or 5. It's going to be cool. And then we're going straight to the airport because we're leaving the next day to go back to the States. We just did road. I go, I can't miss him.
Yeah.
And it was so cool because he plays from start to finish. There's no other DJs. And it's like it's really intimate. And it was amazing. So Mateo's middle name is Laurent, which is named after Laurent Garnier.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's so
So it
cool.
has a big... So, it was a big part of my life. It feels like such a lifetime ago. And I think, oh, God, I used to tour around and go here. It took me around the world. I played in Hong Kong, and I used to call them free vacations because they would pay me some money and cover my flights and treat me really well. And they would tour me around the city or go do cool things. But I still made more money on my day job during the week.
Yeah.
But it was... Why would I say no to that? I didn't have any responsibility of like I wasn't married. I have a family yet and all that. So it was a cool thing. But as Mateo was born, and then I was still kind of doing some doing spotty things, doing like a festival here. I played in London and Switzerland and a festival in St. Martin on the beach because we hosted a stage. Accelerator hosted a stage, and that was 2017, 2018, and then Mateo was really young then, but as he started to get older, and then we really we get into snowboarding and surfing, and then all of a sudden he wants to go do things early, and it was really hard. I'm like, okay, I think it's time to just not do this anymore.
Yeah.
Just do it for fun here and there. Like I'll play every now and then, but I still keep getting invited to play. It's hard to say no.
Well, bringing it back to your son, Mateo, what is one of the most important things that you kind of want him to take away from you?
Oh, gosh. From me, I think one, just to, like, carve his own path, because, like, he is. I think I try to really, because I was probably well, my sister's got a law degree, so it's kind of like a master's degree. But I was like, oh, I'm the one that got the master's, like I pushed it far for my family. But education is really important, I think, for me, because I feel like having an education gives you the latitude to do a lot of different things, right? Right now, he's 14. he wants to be a pro surfer. That should be his dream. Let him dream. He's 14, right? And he might just be that, and I hope he does. And he probably will. He's so focused. It's crazy. For Mateo, for me, I want him to, and I hope, and you were with us, we were all in the Menawise together, I want him to, the comps are fun, and I know in all of this, but he loves traveling, loves surf trips. So at the end of the day, and this is what happened for me in my journey of surfing, is I started out a free surfer and enjoying it, got into some comps, not to the extent he is. He's going to go much further. But I was a comp kid for a while, and then I wasn't, and I was still doing surf trips. I still was going surf trips for all my friends. And what I want him to really never forget and get out of surfing is to remember the moments you're with your family or your friends, getting barreled in the Menawise, or doing a trip. We had a killer trip to Barra and Chappewa where we scored 2 months ago. Those are the moments that you're going to remember the rest of your life. Yeah. The wins feel good for the moment. The losses feel bad for even less, right? You get over them. That all is going to come and go, and it's fun. But at the end of the day, surfing is so much more than that. And I think for me, it's always been a way to, I always feel better, even if I go out on a really crappy day. Like we went out at T Street, and I didn't want to go out. I was just get in the water, and I felt good after, right? You feel really good after you surf, even if it's a crappy
It can be very therapeutic.
So it's very therapeutic. It connects you with nature, and it's very healthy, right? So for him, I want him to really, and he's connected with surfing like that. He loves to travel. You guys know him. He's pretty well traveled already. We've done Peru and Menawise a couple times, Hawaii. So he's very comfortable traveling, and he loves to he loves the travel part of it and that whole journey. And to me, that's a really special part of surfing because you connect with the people you're on. That's how we all connected, right? In Menawise. We probably wouldn't be sitting here if we didn't do that boat trip together, right? So really, being grateful and having a lot of gratitude for surfing because we take it for granted. Like, we're so blessed to be able to go surf. Like, right? I just surfed lowers this morning. We live in San Clemente now. We rode our bikes. I surfed lowers.
Who are you surfing with?
Oh, yeah, Mick Fanning. I just missed Mick Fanning. Cade was out there. Brett Simpson. I don't know, a few other pros. And it was so inspiring, so fun. The water, it was fun, right? And, that's kind of an average day for us now.
100%.
And I'm grateful for that. So one of the things I did with him is I took him back to my old neighborhood. And I said, look, I used to have to find rides to the beach 40 minutes. I worked in a surf shop in the valley. It was my first job, which was a coolest job ever. But I lived here. It's where we lived. This is how far I was from the beach, just so that he could appreciate living in Malibu. We lived in Malibu, right? Mm-hmm. And just so you could appreciate it, you could actually walk and go surf. And so I want him to be able to have gratitude and appreciate what he has, and I think he does. Mm-hmm. The other things are really, really good education and just, to really enjoy and have fun because it's like the joy is in the journey, right? And
100%.
And if you're not it's always, I'm going to do this and this is going to be great then. I'm going to do that. And I know a lot of people and a lot of wealthy people that have invested in projects with me, and I know a lot, and some of them have just worked, and I know they don't have to work anymore. They have enough money, but I'm like, okay, now you've got this money, now you're retired finally, but you can barely walk. So now what are you going to do? So my advice to my son is to always seize the day, have fun along the way. If you're not having fun along the way, then you're totally missing out, right? Yeah. And I used to struggle when I was younger. I was now I'm 57 now, but it wasn't until my 30s, so I tried to figure out, got comfortable with my skin. I'm like, am I a venture capitalist? Am I a house music guy? Am I a surfer? What the F is that, right? That was I was having but that's what I loved. I'd nerd out into technology and the venture capital. I loved to surf, and I loved electronic music. But now it's starting to mesh all in. But back then it was really separate, right? People would be my venture capital guys would come to my apartment in Boston to see turntables. Whoa, what is that? You're a DJ? It's totally different worlds, right? That's totally changed. Now, the fund that I work for, the founder I met through surfing. I was surfing some new golf. My friend said, you got to meet Jamie, take him surfing. So we went surfing in Malibu. He told me what he did. I said, I'd love to get involved with your next fund. So he called me, and we're now partners. They just sponsored our board riders, our fund. I got him to sponsor it. So surfer, venture capitalist, sponsoring the board riders, which is a passion of mine because I love bringing the community together. And then I'll have my electronic music set up, and I'll be DJing. So and my son will be in the comp, and I'll be in it too. I'll be getting smashed by the old guys.
I'll probably be in it as well. I love those comps. And then I had a question kind of in relation to that.
Yeah.
How has giving back to the surf community through North LA Board Riders shaped your life philosophy, and what does that mean for you, and what was your motivator behind starting North LA Board Riders?
So my main motivation was when my Mateo was starting to compete, and I started going, wait, there's no contest in Malibu. I have to drive him to San Clemente or Huntington, right, or Ventura. I'm like, why isn't there any surf contests? There used to be all these surf contests in my area when I was little, and there's none here. So we started going down to South Bay Board Riders. That was a good place for him to start. My friends, come down to South Bay Board Riders. It's a good, friendly environment. And I was pushing him in, right? It was like his first comps. And I was so envious because the whole community was there. And it wasn't a funeral or it wasn't somebody's birthday party. Everybody was there hanging out around, and they all love surfing. And I was a little bit jealous. I'm like, why don't we have this in Malibu or LA, northern LA? This is crazy. And so I did that for a year, South Bay Board Riders. And then those guys are like, why don't you start one up there? He goes, we'll help you. And so the guys at Tom Horton and all those guys at South Bay Board Riders said, look, we'll come up and help you start it. Just get it going, And they started, because they're pretty big. They do like some pretty big stuff. And I was so envious of that community. I'm like, this is so cool. You'd go, and everybody, it's a little different, right? The Board Riders is not like a QS or like a USA Prime Minister. There's a little more tension there, but it's still friendly. I know all the families, and we have a lot of fun. But the Board Riders is kind of like a little party, right? Yeah, it's competitive, but it's like a party. It's everyone getting together, and it's so much fun. Even the West Coast Board Riders, when we surf against like Huntington and Seal Beach and South Bay, I'm in their tents hanging out with them because I know everybody right from the different clubs, and it's like a big party. So that was really special to me to see that and feel that. So I'm like, okay. So I went back and I said, okay, the only way I'm going to do this is I got to get like the legends, right, the big dogs on board to attract more people to bring wood to the fire, right? So I met. So I'm on the committee at Soho House in Malibu, and it's kind of like a board, and we kind of just guide the house and kind of like how it's making changes. It's like having a board of a company, but we're the committee. And so Takuji, Raiji Masuda's dad, is on that board, the committee. And so my first committee meeting where we're all introducing ourselves. He's like, yeah, I'm the coach for the Pepperdine surf team. I'm like, I surf. I went to Pepperdine. And I should probably meet this guy, right? And so I ended up talking to him at the Board Riders, or at the committee meeting after we're talking. And turns out he has a son that's like a year or two older than me, which is Raiji, who's an insane surfer and skateboarder. He's on Stab High. He did the Stab High, the air comp. And he goes, yeah, we should get together and go surf and stuff. And so we were talking, we're like, yeah, there's no comp, no board riders, no nothing. And I go, we should start one. We should do it for our kids. We should do this. We should do this for our kids. It'd be so much fun, right? And we can all get together. So then he goes, okay, I'm in, but we got to get Alan Sarlo. I don't know if you guys know who Alan is.
Yeah,
but Alan's
I know who Alan
the legend of the legend, right? And so I go, so we have lunch with Alan. I go, if Alan's in, we do it, right? That was like a little stressful lunch because if he doesn't do it, we wanted to make sure, because Alan would get everybody to come on the legend side. So then we got Alan's I'm in. So we got third co-founder. Then I'm okay, now we need a millennials. And I had just met Dylan Perillo. I'm a co-founder and investor in Kelson, which was started by Jack Freestone and Mikey February, Kern Caples, and a good friend of mine I grew up surfing with, Evan Caples. I don't know if I've given you guys the zinc at all.
No, you haven't.
I haven't? Okay, it's called Kelson. And Sean Malto.
Is it a sunscreen? Or?
Yeah, it's all eco-friendly. And The guys who run Former, Dane Reynolds' brand, and Rivia, who my son rides for, Julian Wilson, his brand, they're running it now. They took it over. But so I was like, I was raising the money for that. I go, look, I'll invest. I know nothing about brands, but it was my friend is Evan Caples. His son's a couple gold medals. Curtin Caples, one of the biggest skaters from Vans, also rips on the surfboard. And I've known Evan since he was 13, 15. We were on the first surf team together. So I grew up surfing Malibu my whole life. I started surfing Malibu when I was 11, and I surfed, we used to call it kiddie bowl, Lily, like Second Point. And
how has that wave changed over time?
It
so curious.
sucks now compared to what it used to be. So, you know the lagoon. So the lagoon would let out at the top naturally, and all the sand would come out at the top. So it would be from third, and there would be a good left off of third, like lowers. Not as good as lowers, but we're good
crazy.
left. And then a really clean, not racy right through third and point and second. And second was where like everybody would surf. We called it kiddie bowl. It was a really good part of the wave. And first point was a mushy longboard wave. We wanted nothing to do with it. Just take your we'd kick longboarders out, like go down there. Still, there's not many longboarders up there. It's still kind of, that rules still apply. But it was the best part of the wave. Now, they redid that lagoon, which is a disaster, by the way. It's like an environmental disaster.
It is.
And now the water would let out before they did that restoration project, which was a disaster, if you're listening. And the water started going out right at first point. So all the sand went there, and that all got kind of, you know what happened. You need sand, right? For good sandbars and over the rocks for a good point. And it changed the whole break. And so every now and then in the winter, it's just really big rain with a lot of rain and a lot of water rushing out at the top. I've gotten Malibu the best I've ever surfed at third and second point in the middle of the winter on a really big Why am I telling this on a podcast? It's terrible. Don't go there. Never go to Malibu.
Yeah, don't give away your secrets.
No.
There's already such few good days in LA, you know?
I know. But it changed. The wave changed a lot. And so... But so I was raising money for Kelson, right? And then Evan had introduced me. He goes, I think Dylan Perillo wants to invest. All these pro surfers were investing. Dylan's interested. So I met with Dylan. That's where we met. And then Dylan invested. And then, cool, this kid seems really nice. I obviously know Dylan from surfing. And then we were out at Little Doom, which is kind of where Mateo learned how to surf. And Dylan was out there. And then he met Mateo for the first time. And then say, hey, I'd love to coach him. And I said, I'd love for you to coach him. Are you kidding me? And so that's how I met Dylan. And then so I said, first guy I thought of as the fourth co-founder was, we need somebody with all the millennial contacts in Malibu, and that was Dylan Perillo.
Yeah.
So I got him on board. So we had me, Takuji, Allen, and Dylan. So I had kind of the old guys. I had Takuji's network. I had mine. I had Dylan's, and then we started it, and then this is going into our third year, and we've got what, and my thesis was this, is like, look, there's so many good surfers in LA, but you never hear about them. You don't know about them. They're all dispersed, like Taro going down to surf trestles. He's there every day, or he's in Ventura. He's where the waves are. And there's no like meeting point of surfers like there is in Huntington, and San Clemente is like an army, right? And a really deep talent pool. And we were really envious of that. So I'm like, wait, we've got a lot of good surfers here. So the board riders gave us a platform to introduce the kids to like friendly competitive surfing. And then we have a lot of really good surfers. You, Lily, surfing in Italia. We've got, Taro, Dylan, Milo, Shane Borland, Raiji, with just a lot of great surfers, and my son loves the board riders because it's like our community getting together, and it's a lot of fun. And so for us, it just represented like we love competing in the West Coast board riders, but I would say our interclub events like the Leo Carrillos, the Malibus, and the Zoom events we do are so much fun. Like Strider's part of our board riders.
They're so much fun, yeah.
I just hit him up last night and I go, you me around? He goes, oh, I'm in. Like he'll be the announcer, So, and we have so much fun doing them. And it's honestly, I've met so many friends to the board riders, not just like Northern LA, but doing the West Coast, like all the Huntington guys and Seal Beach. South Bay I kind of knew because we surfed there before we started out Northern LA, but it was so cool because it's like there's so many communities of passionate surfers out there, and the board riders has pulled them together. Like, think about the board riders events. Remember when we surfed in the championships at Lowers, right?
Yeah.
In the 50s, he was Tom Curran, Matt Archbold, like there's some, Jeff Booth and some legends, right? And then you've got like all the Groms, the pros, everybody's coming together. And it's really fun because it's very competitive, as you guys know, but it's also fun. And you get to see people like, since we did the board riders, like all those people that are doing my Legends division, like our Legends division, are kids and guys, not kids, but we were kids. We all competed against each other when we were kids. So for us to all get together is either somebody has a kid and have a birthday party and we all go to their party, or somebody dies and we end up at a funeral together, right? Yeah. So the board riders was a really cool way to just get our community together to hang out. So much fun.
Yeah, and
I love it.
Personally, I've met so many incredible people at the board riders that I didn't even know were from North LA.
It's crazy, right? Because there's good surfers.
There's a lot of good surfers actually.
I mean, you were always Dana Point. I knew of you before I knew you. I knew who you were. I mean, this girl, she rips, and she's a pro. And but then you showed up. Like, wait, and no, I'm from LA.
Yeah.
I live in Dana Point. You're like us. We're like straddling LA, and we're like LA San Clemente now. But there's a lot of good surfers. It's not as deep of pool as Huntington, especially not San Clemente. But there's a lot of great surfers that I didn't even know existed until I started the board riders. Like, it was really cool.
It's pretty dispersed because I feel like there's a lot of surfers who are LA at heart and at base, but then kind of follow wherever the waves are. So.
Yeah, I mean that's the tough part with LA right now. And the thing I love about San Clemente is it's like they love surfing here, and we love surfing. So it's like so nice to be in that environment. It's like kids in a candy shop, right? But when we do these interclub contests or Northern LA board riders, like some of the kids are really hardcore surfers, like my son and you, and there's probably 12 of them that are really into surfing and pro surfers or were pro surfers, and then there's some kids that are surfing but they play they do different sports, and so I feel like Malibu is it's an interesting community because we've got a lot of great surfers, but there's more distractions. You got LA there, you've got all these different things, and but the board riders has kind of really changed that in a way, like bringing everybody together. It gets very competitive, and people get really into it. And some of the kids that started competing in our board riders are now competing in other things, and that's what we wanted to do, is give them a platform to learn.
100%.
So.
And you were talking about how Legends, how you need their approval to kind of get the whole thing going. You know how we have lower trestles here, and every kid is looking up to like Mick Fanning or like anyone, Kolohe Andino's out there.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a mentor in your life, and if so, how important is that?
Oh God, it's probably the most important. At least for me, it was like so. I come from a divorced family, so my dad was kind of present, mostly not, and it was like my mom raising us. So I had mentors were more important than they are probably for my son Mateo right now. But a dad can't be that guy all the time. You need a mentor. So for me, I have a couple mentors. So the first one, who I actually got into Soho House, I'm proud of that. I paid it back a little bit. Is this guy Frank Rimkiss, who was the first guy who hired me for that real estate investment banking company. I've known him like when I was a kid, and he taught me so much. I traveled with him. I mean, he literally paid for my first suit. Like I didn't have we used to wear suit and ties back then. You had to. Now you can wear whatever you want practically. But he taught me so much about investment banking, and in addition to school, he taught me like the ropes of finance. And if it weren't for him, I would have never ended up in this whole like venture capital business. So we still get together probably like once a quarter. He took me and Mateo flying. He's the pilot, so he took us flying, which is really cool. We flew up from Camarillo to Paso Robles for lunch and then flew home, which is cool.
That is cool.
That was one of my most amazing mentors. And then yeah, I mean, and I did a fund out of business school, and my partner, who was one of the head guys at an investment bank, he's older than me, has been an incredible mentor to me, and big time. So I've had like mentors on like kind of the like spiritual side of things and side of life. So like I was the last probably like 4 or 5 years, I was like getting into plant-based medicines. Like I don't really drink alcohol. It's just, to me, it's kind of become a poison. And I drank a lot when I was young, and I'm like, this doesn't feel good anymore. And so, but we were looking at different, like I do use plant-based medicines, and so I've had some like kind of like spiritual mentors, or like just like mentors like that I really look up to about how they live their life and how they have gratitude and appreciate their life. And then there's like mentors that really inspire me that I don't even, that are like more in the athlete and the surfing. I've had surfing mentors and coaches, not like to the extent that you guys have now, but I'd say mentors are so important. You mentioned Kaloe and Dino. Don't really know him, but I've talked to him a few times. He's one of the nicest guys, I think. But I love what he's doing for this whole 2% thing. Dane Reynolds is kind of doing that same thing with Chapter 11, who sponsors our event, by the way. Thank you, Dane. That was Dylan Perillo's doing, because they're buddies, and they've done a lot of surf trips together. But what I'm seeing now is like, but yeah, mentors are 100% important. But I also feel like communities, and what I'm calling them tribes. So 2%'s a tribe, Chapter 11's a tribe. We have Northern LA Board Riders, but we kind of have a little tribe in that. Like we kind of did that on a surf trip. We have Milo and you, and there's these little tribes that are kind of exist in these communities, and so we're starting, like I told you this, right? We want to start our own little production company and do produce surf films around talent that exists in Northern LA, because it's so funny, right? It's the media capital of the world, but we do the worst job on not worst job, because Taro killed it, right? So nonfiction. So Quinn did Taro's movie and killed it, right? So Quinn's starting to get traction. I was down at Lowers, and I go, you filming Taro? He's, no, I'm here with Katie. And he's working with Katie and Timo. I'm like, oh, he's moving up, right? I mean, not moving up because Taro's amazing, but like Taro's film was so cool. Like his film, his edit that Quinn did in nonfiction really was, I thought, kind of really set a new benchmark. And I was like, we need to do something like that for the community, right? Like Chapter 11's doing it. They have guests like Dylan from Malibu, but it's kind of Ventura, that network. 2% is really expanding outside of San Clemente, which I didn't think they were, but we're trying to do something like that in LA. And part of that is like forming these communities and like relationships. You have like Mateo's got he's lucky. He's got now Brad Gerlach as a mentor. Dylan's been a huge mentor. Like I just dropped Mateo off at his house, and they know each other so well. So he's been like a big brother and a big figure in Mateo's life.
I was going to say, do you think that Mateo even kind of like recognized Dylan as a mentor when he first met him, or was it just because he was genuinely just interested in Dylan and was like, this guy's
I think cool, at first he was just in awe that this Dylan Perillo was willing to coach him. Yeah. He was like, Dylan Perillo. I mean, I'd hear him telling his friends, Dylan, I'm coaching with Dylan Perillo. Like he was so proud. He's still proud of that. And then we got to know Dylan really well, and Dylan's like family to me. He's like another son to me now, and so I know him really well. And he's really, I know his mom and his dad. And I was talking to Dylan's mom about this. I go, man, your son has become such a mentor to my son, and it's been so special and rewarding to watch that and see that. So that's kind of a really cool thing when if you guys have kids when you're a little older. Whenever you do, but like it sounds so cliche, but going through that journey of like, you're a dad and you're a mentor, but watching your kids grow up and then seeing them like as they get older have their own relationships, and it's really cool to see like Mateo, like all of a sudden he's like he was really shy before. Now he talks to so many people in the water. Now he's really like learning how to communicate and has all these relationships, and now he's like he just texts directly with these people that are now his mentors. I go, get me out of the way. Like these are like your friends and mentors. So it's really rewarding as a dad to see that, and I feel really lucky. I mean, Dylan's an incredible coach, but he's also a really incredible human being.
He is.
He's like you, Lily. He's got a lot of brain power. He's very smart, very analytical, and
UCLA alum.
Yeah, and so I think that do you guys know that Liam O'Brien is going to college while he's on the CT tour? Did you guys hear that?
I had no idea.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I think I can't validate that's actually true, but that's what they were saying.
I know Isabella Nichols
WSL.
went to college while she was on tour too. So there's a lot of people that are starting.
It could
to do
be done. I think and now that we're like all hybrid and online, and I really hope that becomes more prevalent and more widely spread, because. And it's not like you're that busy on the tour or you're training. There's got to be a lot of downtime, right? I see a lot of the guys playing golf,
Well, you can't be surfing all the time.
You can't. So there's down days, right? There's like lay days, right? And so, that was the other thing too that I really admired about Dylan Perillo, and why I'm so happy he's a mentor to Mateo, because this guy was on, he was on tour, then he was on like the Surge for Rip Curl. And he was getting, he got paid a lot more money because there's more money in surfing than there is now. We're going through this down cycle, but he was doing really well. And, they're taking him on 3-4 free boat trips a year, paying him to go and film, Rip Curl and all this and Monster and whatnot. But he, kind of reminded me of myself when I was a kid, because he's like, I always wanted to go to college. So he just quit. He quit the tour, quit everything, and went to he went to Santa Monica City College first, started doing classes, and then got into UCLA, and I was really blown away by that. I'm like, he kind of quit, and I wouldn't say his prime, but he was in it, right?
Yeah.
It was like traveling the world with Dane Reynolds and in their prime time of Dane Reynolds filming. But he really felt that he wanted to go to college, and it was a thing with him, and he did it. He really did it. And so, to me, I have so much respect for that. And so for him to be a mentor to my son, because I always say, Dylan, Mateo knows his journey. And so I think Dylan is, also validating to Mateo, not just dad saying, education's really important, because who wants to hear your dad say that 100 times? But he's starting to see how somebody that he looks up to, is like a hero to him, values education, if that makes sense. So that was really cool to see. And I was so stoked to hear you were in UCLA. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
That,
and then when you told me what was your major?
I'm bioengineering.
Yeah, so you got a lot of brain power. So that's amazing. And then you just graduated college too, right?
I did just graduate.
Yeah, so it's so cool. I mean, honestly, like, I think I don't know, I hope it catches on. I think there needs to be a university program for the tour.
I 100% agree.
A tailored program for the tailor. No, like, seriously. Professors on tour that actually do classes and like pods, right, with athletes, so they can learn and go to college while they're on tour.
Yeah.
That would be really.
That's what I
great
thought.
idea. You should patent that.
It was almost like a wild conversation, but I don't know where we got. I don't know who it was with one night, but it was Alberto Barzan's dad, and I think Finn Murphy's dad, Chris Murphy, and we were at Waco. That's right, we were at Waco. And we were at the dinner. I'm like, we came up with this idea of like, wouldn't it be cool? Like, we have our kids in these home schools or these physical schools. Like, if we created a school for surfing, right? But this is a joke. But how cool would that be if you had professors there? So it's like a training academy. So you're actually on campus, but there's like a Waco.
Yeah,
there.
that would be so cool.
And you have, it could be a full athletes program, and so that could be like that could be what you actually a school that you're attending. I kind of see that's going to happen in the future because wave pools are happening more and more and more, and like you're building a gymnasium, not a little, maybe it's a little more money, of course, but think about it. There's football, there's pools for water polo, there's all these different baseball fields. Why not a wave pool for the surf team?
Yeah, I agree.
Think of how cool that would be.
I mean, it's the size of a football stadium, basically.
How cool
So that would be so
You're
cool.
at UCLA, and you've got, I'm going to do the athletics program. So you get out of class, you have a 2-hour break, and you go surf a wave pool, and then you go back to class.
That would be so cool.
So instead of getting in your car.
45-minute drive.
In LA, right? It takes a while.
It takes a while. It definitely is.
So that's sort of the model, I think. That's kind of my model for a school is to actually, and then kids can come from all over the country. They live in like dorms. They live there. There's professors. There's a full school program, but there's also a wave pool with coaches and an athletics program to progress your surfing.
That is so epic. We
you
need
can
to make
even
that
have
happen.
skateboarding into that too. Put a skate ramp here.
Yeah.
But I think that education, it's I think I don't know how many pros are on tour, but it would be interesting to know. But it would be really cool. I think somebody's going to figure this out and go, wait, because my kid he's at Compass, he was at Laurel Springs, and a lot of athletes go. A lot of pro tennis players at Laurel Springs, and a lot of athletes go to Compass. So they're good programs. But, think if you could just kind of take that into the pro tour environment, so you're actually doing physical classes with the athletes that you're competing against. How much fun would that be? It's like you do stuff with them anyways, right? You go for free surf and do all this other stuff. But what if you could actually have this pod and you can get some university classes done while you're sitting there and it's flat in North Carolina and they're not running today?
Oh, 100%.
Instead of
That'd be
nothing
so
to
cool.
do there, right? And so
Yeah.
you could go get some school done.
That would be.
I think it would be cool.
That would be pretty cool. That was so well said. But anyways, to wrap up, we're going to be doing a quick rapid fire round of questions.
Yeah, go for it.
So the first is, what's the best coffee spot in LA before a surf?
Oh, in LA?
Yeah.
Best coffee spot in LA before a surf. I would say if I stop and get coffee, probably that I forget the name of it, but it's that vintage market there. That's
I
a
know
Malibu.
exactly where that is. Yeah, with the wood, the really cool wood outside.
It's right. It's like their little market within a market.
Right across from Zuma. Yeah, I see exactly where that is.
If it's in San Clemente, I like Zebra, the drive-through. It's
Shout
so
out
cool.
to Zebra.
It's so great.
Zebra
we
House.
love it.
Yeah.
We just drive through there
It's
because we
easy,
go to Huntington
right?
every Friday. We get up and no coffee, no breakfast. You throw the dog in the car and the surfboards, and we get up early and we just go to Zebra. It's boom.
Yeah.
There's one next to Bonsai Bowls that's pretty good too. They have one in Huntington.
It's Sir Coffee.
But the best one is I think it's what's the one in Whole Foods? The best coffee in Malibu that I really like is Blue Bottle.
Oh, I love Blue Bottle.
That's the place.
They make great coffee.
That's the best coffee.
Yeah, I agree. Question 2, where is your go-to place for a breakfast after a morning surf?
Bonsai Bowl. If it's in Malibu, it's Sun Life.
Oh, I love Sun Life. What's your order there?
I like. It's got the Samurai. Samurai Bowl with extra peanut butter.
Good.
It's really good. Anthony Petruso, do you know him from our board riders? He turned me on to that bowl. It's so good.
It's so good.
If it's at Bonsai Bowls in San Clemente, or Huntington, I like the Dakine.
Yeah.
The Dakine. My son likes the Maui Sunrise, but I'm totally addicted to acai bowls.
Yeah, they're really good. All right, so if you could surf one wave in the world for the rest of your life, where would it be?
And it would be as good as it's ever.
As good as it is.
It's always good?
As it gets.
Yeah, like as perfect as it gets in your imagination.
Oh, Chippewa in Mexico, like 2 hours south of Barra. Chippewa for sure. Right hand, sand bottom point, 89-degree water. And when it's fiery, it's fiery. Like you're doing walk-arounds for sure.
Oh my God, that sounds
Chippewa.
incredible. I'll have to check that wave out.
It's also called Elvis. The reason why they call it Elvis, there's like 20 points between Barra and there, and that's the king, the best.
Oh my God,
Chippewa.
I'm gonna add that to my bucket list for
Chippewa
trips.
for sure.
Yeah. And if you had to choose between DJing or surfing for the rest of your life, which would
and
it
I
be?
couldn't do either?
You could only only do one or the other.
Not even have to think about it. I would choose surfing. Not even a doubt. It might be, do I get to listen to music?
Yeah,
I
you get
can't
to listen
DJ.
to music. You just can't
Honestly, I already made that choice because I could have DJ'd. No, I can't really. I was kind of aging myself out of it. But I could have DJ'd a lot longer and probably bigger than I wanted to. But for me, surfing, without a doubt, I don't know if it's because I'm getting old or I am old. And going out to music events isn't exciting. Even no matter if I love the music, it's not as exciting as it used to be when I was younger. Surfing never gets old. It's always exciting. It's always new. And I've been doing this since I was 11 and I'm 57. Yeah. And I'm like I was going down the lowers this morning all excited knowing it was going to be fun. And like a kid, like a frother. Yeah. So without a doubt, surfing, no doubt.
Yeah. I mean, you were frothing out just as hard as we were when we were in the men's, if not harder. Yeah. It was so sick.
Wasn't surfing as good, but I was frothing out. That was fun. There were some fun times there. We got to go back. Helmet Lang. What was that? Helmet Lang. It was the helmet. We had some funny moments.
World.
It was fun, but yeah, surfing without a doubt. I mean, with music, like I always used to have this saying, music will help you get you through the bad times and help you celebrate the good times because it makes you feel good. It can drive your emotions. Yeah. Surfing can do the same thing, but it's way healthier, like compare like musicians to like pro surfers and their lifestyles. It's just so much healthier. And I don't feel my age. I get up slower and like Mitchell's like, went over the falls the other day. I'm like, I'm getting up slower, He's making a joke, about me. He's only picking on me a little bit, like, oh, you're slowing down a little bit, Dad. But I think I still charge for my age, but it keeps you healthy. And surfing connects you to nature like no other sport, right? Snowboarding kind of does too. Like I've seen some beautiful things snowboarding. I'm an avid snowboarder. But surfing, like some of the sunsets we've seen, the dolphins, the things that we've seen surfing, most people going on a beach vacation will still never see because they're not in the water. It's incredible. We're going to think about what we do. We go to these obscure places of the world that no one would ever go to if you don't surf. Why would you ever go there? But like the Menawais, like how beautiful. Remember we were on that beach, like we were like the only ones on the island having a bonfire, lighting the Chinese lanterns and having a barbecue. Like I don't know any like Sandals resort or whatever that now offers that. Like so like being a surfer takes you to the most remote, unique places in the world. DJing can take you to really cool spots too, but not like surfing. Surfing, like, if you're a surfer, you're really lucky because you really get to know what paradise really looks like.
100%. So well said.
So we want to do like a signature question to end our podcast that we're going to ask everyone at the end of the podcast, every guest. Looking back, do you think your 18-year-old self could have imagined where you are today?
Oh, wow. I'm trying to think how I felt when I was 18. When I was 18, I was trying to figure out if I was going to keep trying to compete in surfing and try to become a pro or go to college. I thought I'd probably do pretty good because I was pretty smart. I'm pretty gifted in math, and I didn't have to try too hard in school and a lot of things. And I would get like really good grades, and then I would get, I'd be a little bit of a little rebellious in my behavior sometimes when I was a kid. But I grew up through that, and so I kind of felt like I knew something good was going to happen because I felt I was smart, and even if I left, I wasn't never going to leave surfing. But if I changed, the dream was no longer a pro surfer; it was going to be what I was going to do for a career. And I was kind of thinking I was totally off. I think the real estate market was really bad then, but I didn't know, right? So I just knew that I thought I was going to be okay and do pretty well, but no way on earth would I ever had any idea that I'm doing what I'm doing now. And I'm not talking like just from an experience point of view. I would have never thought I would have became a DJ and traveled the world. That was crazy to me. I would have never thought I would become the CEO of the magazine I subscribed to 20 years earlier. All that was kind of really weird to me, like a little bit of like, why is this happening now? And but the electronic music industry is funny. It never lets me go. It always tries to suck me back in. And so now it's like doing it at the Board Riders, and I think we're gonna do a cool event. Now I'm just like, I like to produce events, but the answer is I had no idea it was going to take this direction. I thought I would be. I had no idea I traveled like I've traveled the world over. No way, not even a chance. I had not even left the. First time I left the country when I was 22. Besides going to Mexico and surf, like when I went to Europe, I went by myself. When I was 20, right when I got out of school, undergrad, and my boss would not let me unless I went by myself. And I'm like, why? I want to go with friends. He goes, trust me, if you go by yourself, you're going to get out of your zone. You're going to meet people that you would otherwise not meet if you're with a friend. So maybe go by myself. I was supposed to go for 2 weeks. I stayed for a month. I kept calling him, going, can I stay? I was in Greece, going island hopping with these friends I'd met from Italy and Canada and Sweden. And we were just cruising, and I met so many people, and that opened my eyes to the world. So 100% no, I had no idea.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, John, it's been so fantastic having you on the show, and thank you for sharing your insights and your incredible life story with us.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it all made sense. We kind of went, but it is my life. It's eclectic. So I kind of went all over the place because that's kind of like, my last name's Wander, so I don't know if that plays into it, but I feel like I've had these 3 lifetimes of like, I had this surfing as a kid, and then venture capital has been the last 20 years, and then I had like a DJ experience, producing events and festivals, and then I have Mateo experience, which has been a whole nother ride, and it's so amazing. But he's gonna drive soon, so that's gonna end, and I don't know what the next chapter is. But it's been an amazing journey, and but yeah, I feel really lucky and really blessed, and I mean, I feel really lucky, and looking back, it's like I kind of go, wow, what a ride. It feels like 3 lifetimes ago, not just because I'm old, but just like how much life has changed in different ways. But still, I'm going to be at the Board Riders. My venture capital partners and investors will be there. I'll be playing electronic music, and I'll be surfing, so nothing's really changed.
Yeah, so you get the best of all 3.
So I guess I'm still doing what I love, Yeah. And I'm doing it with my son. That's probably, when you have kids, you'll see that. Like, there was probably nothing better than being on that Menawai trip than being there with him. And seeing him, we went the year before and seeing him going, oh my gosh, watching you guys see the Menawai for the first time.
It was such an incredible
It's like
place.
bringing a kid to Disneyland when they're 5, look, and you're like, wow. They're all.
I know. I already want to go back. I'm like, when
there's
can
there's
I
a
go
lot
back?
of cool places. We want to do a Jeffreys Bay trip. That's on my bucket list.
Talia was just there, and she was posting clips from it. It looked incredible.
Yeah. So we kind of just missed it for this year because it ends around October, but we're gonna plan a trip next year if you guys want to go.
Of course.
We're in. Well,
and you're both regular footers, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So there we go.
Yeah, rights all day. I'll eat rights for breakfast.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So much.
And to our listeners, make sure to follow John's work and keep up with his latest projects. John, where can they find you and follow your story?
I would say, Instagram, obviously at John Wander. I don't post as much as I should, but you can definitely follow me there. I'm posting more. That's probably it. I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't go there that much. It's just too much to go. I'm not really I'm on Facebook, but everything I do on Instagram gets reposted there, so I don't really go there either. So I think the best place is Instagram. Yeah. For business, LinkedIn. Instagram is like my life. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see like a pretty eclectic lifestyle.
Well, we love to see it. Yeah. Stay tuned for our next episode, and thanks for listening.
Hey, and congrats on the podcast, and super, super honored to be number 1. So wishing you guys the best of luck with it. Yeah.
Oh, we appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.